The taboo Spain can't escape. The chamber is cool, even in summer. Stone absorbs sound. Silence is not absence here, it is discipline. A future head of state stands where footsteps have been measured for centuries, beneath symbols designed to outlast opinion. Her presence is precise. Her expression unreadable. She is Princess Leonor de Borbón y Ortiz, and around her exists a question Spain has learned not to articulate. Not because it lacks importance, but because once voiced, it cannot be returned to silence. Some questions are never asked out loud, because once spoken, they force a nation to confront what it has tried to leave behind. Spain's modern monarchy was rebuilt, not inherited intact. It emerged from rupture, from negotiated forgetting, from a deliberate agreement that certain debates would remain closed so that the state itself could move forward. That agreement still governs the present. The crown is constitutional, symbolic, restrained. It does not rule, it reassures. It does not persuade, it stabilizes. Its power lies not in action, but in acceptance. And acceptance depends on restraint. The taboo begins here, not with scandal, not with rebellion, but with the boundaries of what the monarchy is allowed to represent, and what it must never provoke. Spain does not ask whether it wants a monarchy every day. That question was settled once, deliberately, to avoid endless fracture. The unspoken rule is simple: as long as the crown does not demand attention, it may continue to exist. At around 2 minutes, the first uncomfortable reframing emerges. The taboo is not about abolishing the monarchy. It is about speaking openly of its fragility. Because once fragility is acknowledged, permanence dissolves. Continuity is not abstract here, it is embodied in visible presence. In ritual that signals normality. In silence that implies stability. The monarchy's greatest strength is that it appears inevitable. Its greatest weakness is that inevitability depends entirely on belief. Spain has learned this lesson before. When institutions speak too loudly, they invite resistance. When they justify themselves too often, they appear unsure. So the crown learned to say less. To reveal less. To allow ambiguity to act as insulation. By 5 minutes, the phrase returns, no longer theatrical, but procedural. Forbidden rule. Because the rule is not written in law. It is enforced by memory. Do not force the country to choose again. Do not reopen questions that required consensus to bury. Do not make the monarchy visible enough to be weighed. This rule governs everything: education, public appearances, language, gesture. National identity is woven into these rituals, precisely because they avoid confrontation. From abroad, this restraint is often misunderstood. In the United States, analysts tend to see monarchy as pageantry, secondary to real power. But quietly, they monitor stability. A monarchy that provokes debate signals institutional stress. Stress travels. In the United Kingdom, the understanding is instinctive. They recognize the danger of unresolved questions. They have watched how silence can protect, and how explanation can corrode mystique. Canada and Australia, bound by inherited symbolism, watch Spain as a reference point. If a restored monarchy in a modern democracy begins to justify itself openly, others may be forced to do the same. Germany observes with colder precision. As a state built on constitutional clarity rather than inherited ambiguity, it treats Spain as a live case study in whether silence can still function as governance. At around 8 minutes, the deeper mystery settles in. What exactly is the question Spain avoids? It is not whether the monarchy should exist. It is whether the nation still believes in the bargain that created it. That bargain required forgetting conflict, forgetting fracture, forgetting the cost of collapse. The monarchy was positioned as a bridge, not to the past, but over it. And bridges are not meant to be examined too closely. At 10 minutes, a strain becomes perceptible. Not dramatic, procedural. A new generation did not negotiate the original agreement. They inherited it. They did not choose silence, they were born into it. And inheritance without participation weakens legitimacy. This is where the institution becomes cautious. Because asking for renewed consent risks discovering it no longer exists in full. The point of no return approaches quietly. At 14 minutes, the rhetorical cliffhanger emerges. What happens when silence no longer reassures? When absence of explanation feels less like dignity and more like evasion? At that moment, the taboo transforms. From protective measure to liability. The crown knows this. That is why it invests so heavily in normalcy. In youth. In preparation. In visible continuity. A future queen represents time itself, unbroken, disciplined, predictable. But time does not freeze. By 19 minutes, a future threat takes shape,